Woohoo! And welcome to another episode of the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast, where John Farquhar and I, Chris Harris, bring interviews with top trucking safety professionals, trucking company owners, and influencers. This week's guest is Mr. Stacey of Aviva Insurance, and we get right into it. But first, let me read this disclaimer that Andrew's asked be included. So here we go. The content of this podcast is for information and conversation only. It is not intended to be relied upon as specific direction or advice. Andrew does work for Aviva. However, Aviva accepts no responsibilities for actions taken as a result of any reliance on the information provided in this podcast. So that's the disclaimer. In other words, Aviva wants to allow Andrew to participate and spread the good word. However, take us all three of us, with a grain of salt, because we can be pretty foolish at times. All right, with that, let's get right into this week's interview. Welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Podcast for now. All right, it's going to be called Trucking Insurance Risk Management something or other. We don't know yet.
All three.
We are still waiting for your suggestions. What are we calling the new podcast that features Mr. John Farquhar as the Ed McMahon of the world, and myself? You have to put up with me, and guests like Stacey, Mr. Andrew Stacey of Aviva Insurance, safety guy extraordinaire. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be back.
Glad to have you. You know, it's always great to have another white-haired fella join us on this podcast, which is just phenomenal, full of wisdom and knowledge and Christmas mugs.
Well,
I got so much knowledge it just fell right out.
I noticed Andrew trimmed his beard, though.
Oh,
I did. It's not. I'm not trying to follow the John trend.
It's the John Farquhar starter set.
Yeah.
I don't know. John's got too much hair on the top of the head.
Three men and a beard. That's my vote.
Yeah. That would be a good name of a podcast. What are we talking about today, Mr. John? You chose this?
I did. And I chose this for a couple of reasons. One, because it's fresh of mind, by all means, after this past weekend, during not this past weekend, the weekend prior to this recording. So anyway, but there was just recently a virtual driver training session, compliments of the Safety Dawg and KRTS, where one of the segments talked about distracted driving. So it's kind of a hot topic. It's something that's ongoing, but also of interest is Mr. Stacey here recently wrote an article on distracted driving as well. So I thought, hey, bit of a common theme. It's a problem within the industry. And I thought, hey, hot topic. Everybody talks about it, but nobody talks enough about it. So I kind of thought, let's chat about it and throw some 2 cents worth in there.
All right. So Mr. Andrew, can you tell us what's your background very briefly, who you're working for, and why in the heck should the viewers give a rat's ass as to what Andrew Stacey says? Sorry, introduce yourself, my friend.
Well, I'm a national fleet safety loss control specialist with Aviva Insurance. I've been with Aviva now just coming on to 5 years. And I want to give a shout out, if I can really quick, because last week during Trucker Week, you know, as we always sit back and I get to go see, you know, the safety people, the owners and stuff like that. We don't get to converse with drivers as often. And so it was really nice. I went out to the scale with the AMTA, who I'm a member of, and we were passing out, gift bags to the drivers as they were across the scales and everything. So I know it's the week after, but I'll say it, I'll say it now, thanks to the truckers for everything that they do. It's been a rough year. So thank you for everything you guys do, and let's hope for another good, safe year.
Well, trucking appreciation shouldn't just be 1 week out of the year. It should be every week, every day of the year, because as they say, if you got it, A truck brought it.
Oh, this is true. And, it's the three of us that here, I've known you guys for quite some time. We've all started in that spot. And, it was nice to actually be able to get out and go see them, because of the fact, like I said, I always get to go see the other people now. I get to see us, the safety people. I get to see the owners. We're on with, with an underwriter. And actually, it was an underwriter that asked me to go out and volunteer my time to do that. So shout out to the underwriter for doing that. Melissa, I'll give you a pop there. Because it was a good point.
Exactly. So you went to the scale, you said. Were you out there all week or just one day of the week or part of a day, or like how did that work out?
I went to the Strathmore scale, which is just on the east side of Calgary on Highway 1. And I was out there for, about 4 hours, I think, last Thursday. And so it was just the one day, but they had done it at different locations throughout the week with different volunteers at various locations and everything else. So I just happened to pick that one because it worked out well with the underwriter.
Sure. I've seen a lot of tweets on it. So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was just going to say kudos to Aviva to, say, hey, yeah, we'll pay you to go out there and, be our representative to do that. So seriously, that's great that the insurance industry and specifically Aviva supports you in that.
Yep.
Oh, we're very strong in the community when it comes to volunteering, for a lot of different things, but they were extremely supportive in this. So, I do appreciate it. It's good. It's a good backing.
Awesome. Distracted driving.
Distracted driving.
Is it a problem?
Just a minute. I got a call here. I got to take this call, I think. Hello? Mom?
Well,
Mom, I'm on the phone. I'll call you back.
It is a problem. And what really got me involved with this one, it wasn't so much statistics. Now, I did some background work before I wrote the article for the PMTC, and I did look at statistics with it, and I was shocked by it, just by the numbers. And, but my thing is I'm an avid motorcyclist, and I like to spend my summer as much as I possibly can, out riding my motorcycle out towards the mountains, doing everything, getting all that nice fresh air and the stress-free times. John likes his winter buggies out in the snow. I like the summer two wheels. But every time I go out, I seem to have a problem with, finding the person that's sitting there texting while they're driving, or they're cutting into my lane. And when you're hyper vigilant and you're out on a motorcycle, you seem to pick this out even more. And it was something that I just started to notice. And so over the past 2 years, I've really spent a lot of time out on the city streets because of COVID and stuff like that. We're going to visit clients, and I've been taking my motorcycle. And it's ridiculous the amount of texting and driving that I see. And the response I get when I ask people, when I get up beside them, to put their phone down is pretty disheartening.
Some 4-letter words?
Yeah. Read between the lines?
I'm not going to pick on one person or the other, like whether it be male or female type thing, but I can tell you I get surprised. And I mean, I come from the trucking industry. It's pretty hard to make me blush. We've all been around it and everything else like that, but I've had a couple instances where I've had to shake my head and go, wow, I didn't see that one coming. So, but there's different limits to the style of texting or distracted driving. There's those that you see going down the road that you can tell they're texting. They're staring down at their lap. They've got their head buried into their steering wheel. Or there's the other ones is, you're up in the industrial sections and they have their phone up to their face and they're talking because it's not up to their ear. So they figured that's, it's like almost like a hands-free type thing. But I mean, it's integrated. It's a part of our life, and it's a really bad addiction. And it just, even though the statistics here in Alberta, as I was reading them this morning, seem to be getting better from 2017 on, I do believe that COVID has played a real big role in that without having the vehicles on the road as much. So, the police aren't being able to get them as often and stuff like that. But I mean, from what I see, it's never ending.
So just to summarize, when you're on your bike, you have absolutely no problem attracting those around you who are texting and driving is that the summary of it?
Yeah, that's very fair. Like I said, because you're hyper vigilant, and I ride as if I have to ride as if I am absolutely invisible. So I have to watch everybody as much as I possibly and humanly can. It's part of the, safety in it. And it's hard, but yeah, you do see a lot of it.
Which is too bad. I know, John, This is one of the things. When I phone you, I get a voicemail saying that you've been kidnapped by something or other, millions or something.
Minions.
Or
yes.
You're driving and your phone's in the trunk.
Yep, exactly. It's you know what, the sad part is we have to practice what we preach, and everybody preaches the same thing, but we also all have distractions, so it's how we manage those distractions. Every one of us, like there's no one person you could point to say, oh, he's got a problem with distracted driving. Everybody has it. We all do. You know what? We're all looking out the front window and then, whoa, that's interesting. Oh, that's kind of neat. We just took our eyes off the road for 2 seconds, distracted us from our task, right? Yeah. Doesn't matter. Could be a billboard, could be a sign. We all have it. I think you have a new funky car. It's a Tesla. And it has one of these great big iPads in the middle of it, for crying out loud. That in itself can be distracting because something could blink and it's going to take your attention away from the car. Everybody's got the problem. It doesn't matter what it is. I have a big infotainment center in the middle of my dash. Something blinks on it. Oh, I'm looking over at it.
Well, let me say about the car. In my old car, a Ford Edge, I couldn't punch in an address while I was moving.
Right. Yes. I've got an Edge as well. The same thing. Yes.
Surprised as hell when I can punch in the address while I'm moving in a Tesla.
Is that
now, how do I know that? Being a safety guy.
So, no doubt.
So
it's supposed to be safer in a Tesla, though, is it not?
Yes, it is, I think, and kudos to Tesla. I really think they've pushed the envelope a little bit. But I'll tell you, my brother-in-law just bought a Hyundai, brand new thing for $20,000. I think he paid for it. It was something ridiculously inexpensive, and it came with a heated steering wheel, heated seats, all that kind of stuff. And it's got the stay in the lane controls.
Wow.
And stuff like that. So the features of a Tesla and a Mercedes and a BMW are quickly dripping down into the, what do you say? Just the everyday vehicles or the more affordable vehicles, because this Hyundai is a great little vehicle and it's got stay in your lane. Like, holy crap.
So some of those luxury options are now becoming standard features on the lower end cars, which is excellent. It's great. Yeah. Well, and it's sad to say this, I'm going to say it, but people need help. When they're driving down the road, anybody that sits there and goes, no, I don't need it, I'm a perfect driver, is lying to themselves and everybody else. There is no perfect driver out there because we're all distracted in one form or fashion. So anything that'll make life a little bit easier. We drive too long. That lane departure system would be great. When I start to get a little tired, it would help remind me, you know what? I'm not as fresh as I was. Maybe I should pull it over, take a break, park for the night or whatever it be. But there's great safety features out there, but we kind of want to balk at them. Well, some of us do. And then others don't have the safety features, but continually be distracted because they don't really want to stop, which is a problem.
Let me ask Andrew a question. Sorry, Andrew, you were going to say something?
Yep.
Oh, I was just going to say, just to go on with what John was saying, I don't know that we want to stop or don't want to stop. I don't know that we can, right? Like it has become such an addiction. And just one of the things that I looked at when I was writing this article was, that people over the ages of 15 to the age of, I think it's 45, it's like 97% of people have a phone now, right? So
Okay.
it's not like the days, the beard shows it. It's not like the 80s when we used to be able to pick up our phone and get the dial tone and call to our friends. Everybody now, I mean, when I go out on the road, I take 2 cell phones. Oh my, that's, we're not going to comment on that. That's almost as bad as a bag phone.
Yeah.
But you know, we go out, and the thing is now we've got all this social media, and we are such a divided. I mean, and I don't want to get into politics here in any which way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But we are so divided, and we get onto our social media, and then we've got to have that. You know, there's all those shows that are showing you, you know, the dopamine effect of using all these likes and everything. So now all of a sudden you've got this phone sitting beside you, and you know, as we're talking, not just as a personal person, but as a fleet, and you send out, you know, a driver a text message or something like that, and you tell him, you know, don't read that text until you stop. It's pretty hard when he's sitting there, and it's an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a human addiction that goes with it. You know, where they say, just to read this off to you, you know, 45% of people check their phone every half an hour. 56% have to check it before they go to bed. And personally, after I read all this, I decided to put my phone away an hour and a half before bed, and it must go in a different room. But my wife and my daughter cannot do the same thing. And yes, they have to have their phones before they go to bed, or, you know, basically sleep with them, right? So it's an addiction, and that's the problem.
Well, how many people use their phone like I do? It's my alarm clock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do that. I'm similar to Andrew, where when I'm done with this, well, it stays in my office. Unless I'm out of the house somewhere, I'll take it with me. But yeah, when come the end of the day, this stays in the office. It doesn't go out into the living room. It doesn't go in my bedroom. It stays here.
Do you have a house phone?
No.
Well, there's another side to this too, Chris, where, you know, when people are sitting there using that phone that late at night and all that blue screen technology and everything, you know, it limits their sleep too. It deprives their sleep patterns and everything else like that. Then you have a much more fatigued driver the next day. And this is something that just keeps compounding and rolling down the road. And, you know, it's not that, again, I don't have statistics to say this, but it's not that I'm going out and seeing like an extremely large amount of accidents that are caused by distracted driving or whatever. But when I get into the client and I'm talking to them and I see things like rear end collisions, or if I see a trend, a lot of times you will find out that there's a big, it embeds into that, right? And, you know, you can have that conversation with them on how to reduce that, because of course, even though right now the legislation is not like a criminal offense, it can certainly get that way very quickly after the collision if it's severe enough.
Wow.
Perfect. You say that because there's a lot of insurance providers now that are looking at distracted driving as a major offense, ranking up there with careless and dangerous driving. So
the title of my article was, you know, this is our new DUI.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Agreed.
That is very much the way I look at it, especially when I'm out seeing a client, and if I see carrier profiles that will have a listed name and it will say a handheld device on it or something of that nature, it's usually how I go and discuss it with them, and I treat it the same as a DUI.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Well,
the only difference, I think, between that and a DUI is distracted driving's happening more frequently than
correct.
we catch.
Yes.
The numbers do suggest that it was higher than, you know, the fatality rate and the accident rate is higher than drinking and driving nowadays, which surprisingly enough, as adults, we still have a problem with.
Yeah.
Well, that's another. Well, it's another whole show of drinking and driving, or substance abuse and driving.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
the distracted driving aspect has taken a huge increase just since the pandemic alone. So 2019, 2020, the stats have seen collisions increase because of the distracted driving issues. You know, when the pandemic started, everybody was at home. The highways were open. Yay, it's a free for all, you know. And I'm sure drivers thought, well, there's nobody out here. I can have a look at this. Nobody's going to bother me. But as you mentioned, Andrew, it's an addiction. So it doesn't stop when the traffic starts to build again.
And you know, everywhere we go, everything seems to be filled with it, right? And there's a big misconception too, where people will say, you know, we've got Bluetooth technology in our car. We don't, or in our trucks, we don't have to use our phone. We can, you know, we can discuss things. As I understand that that's legal in most areas. And, you know, I can't speak for all of North America, but it's still distracted. You know, there's enough science out there to tell you and show you that that is not the way to go. You know, we have to focus on the road in front of us. The roads are more congested. Now that people are coming back, you know, well, maybe not here in Alberta, but, you know, people are more, sorry, as we're going back into
we don't want to get into politics now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that means that, you know, now that we're into COVID 4.0 out here, we're a little bit closed off, but not much. But, you know, people are going back out the road. And another thing that I've seen a lot this year, too, with following social media, because I have pegged my social media to follow trucking pages, to follow, you know, industry related stuff more than anything else, right? So I can see what's going on in the industry. And I'm seeing a lot of new drivers, right? So when you're out there and you're seeing all these people going, I'm going to go for my license tomorrow. I'm going to go for my license tomorrow. Yay, I just got my license. And, you know, as an active motorcyclist, we're also up with, you know, fatal collisions. I think it's like 90% here in Alberta or something like that. And this year, it's just been like, you know, it felt like every second week we were getting an article saying that somebody else was, you know, killed out the road, right? Because they're new and they're overriding and everything. But, you know, COVID has stopped people from, you know, going out and going to work every day or something like that. But they're, you know, they're getting into other things like motorcycling or driving or things of that nature, right? So there's a lot of newness on the road.
Yeah, no, distracted driving is just that. And I'm investigating an accident right now or a collision right now. And I'll tell you that in the event of a crash, they get your cell phone record and they compare it. And in this case, they can't pin it to the exact, the driver was on the cell phone. It looks like approximately the same time as the crash. It is so close, but they can't pin it exactly and say that you were talking on the phone. And you're right, Andrew, this particular unit has Bluetooth technology. So the driver legally was not breaking the law. Perhaps the driver was distracted.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, as we see the litigations getting higher, and let's, you know, speaking of the United States, you know, with the nuclear verdicts and the one down in Florida now, I do believe it's like $1 billion.
Yep,
that goes with, that's distracted driving. There's a guy driving down the road on his phone. If I do remember correctly, reading on that one, they didn't specify what the distraction was, but they did say he was distracted because he didn't touch the brake pedal until 1 second before impact. Yeah.
So, but it could have been anything. And he was traveling at 70 mile an hour on cruise control prior to that. So the assumption is he was probably on his phone.
Well, and you're talking about the Quebec truck, correct?
Yeah, the one in Florida with the two carriers.
Yeah,
yep.
Well, a Quebec truck, though, is supposed to be governed at 105. So how in the heck is he traveling at 70? Is just throwing that out there.
Yep.
Because Quebec and Ontario are the only two jurisdictions in North America, I believe, that have governing still.
Yes. Yep.
So, and it's 105, which is what, 62 and a half or something miles per hour? 63 miles per hour or something?
No, 65.
65? Okay. I'm not good at that conversion stuff, eh? Okay, but 65. So he was traveling. He could have been going downhill, perhaps. Not a lot of hills in Florida, though, as I remember.
No, not much, especially at the top end. It was just outside of Jacksonville when it took place. Pretty flat out there.
Yeah, so I don't know how he got up to 70. It's a mystery.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, let's see about
Yeah,
that
but
one.
distracted driving isn't. That's
Yeah.
that's the hard part, right?
Yeah. Well, and I've said it many times to people that the faster you go over 55 mile an hour, the faster you go, the more you need to pay attention because things are moving very quickly. It's happening faster than you ever thought it could.
Well, there was a statistic in there that, and again, it's a neat one to know when you're doing 90 kilometers an hour and you glance down at your phone, you basically, by the time you glance down and you come back up, you've gone over the distance of the football field.
Yeah.
Yeah, the presentation I just did was at 105 kilometers an hour, it's 30 meters or 96 feet. So, yeah, 3
Per
seconds
second.
looking down, boom, you're past.
Yeah.
96 feet per second at 105.
Yeah.
That's,
So
I don't know how many
that's-
meters
that's
that
a
is,
lot.
but it's a lot.
30.
And it is hard too because there's a lot of carriers, there's a lot of different types of fleets, that are running around today that are using the technology. So the technology's out there. We're going to have to, somewhat learn to work within it, obviously, because it's not going away. It's just advancing. As your Tesla will suggest, everything is advancing in that direction. Hopefully there's more safety features to come for those kinds of things. But, there are little things that, within policies that they can do. And, if people are using it for GPS and all that kind of stuff and, try to keep the text out of people's eyes, try to keep it down to, like a picture type thing, make sure that it's not in a spot where it's going to impede, the forward facing of the eyes through the windshield. It can be audible so that it can call out there's something for you. Like when I'm riding my motorcycle and I'm going to a location, I do have a GPS on my motorbike. It will call out the location in my ears and my helmet because I'm going down the road. I don't physically have to look down at it. It will tell me, 600 meters, 700 meters, I'm going to make a right-hand turn on such and such a street. And, you can be prepared. It will tell you what lane to be in and everything else like that. We just can't adjust those things while we're driving, right? Which is the problem, and that's what we're seeing a lot of.
Yeah.
We got to wrap this up. I got one more question that is related to this distracted driving. We know that, because you mentioned advancements in technology, we know that dash cams, of course, are strongly, I would say, urged by every insurance carrier, and I would imagine Aviva is no different there. How about driver-facing dash cams? Because you mentioned my car. There was a software update recently. In my model of car, there is a camera facing the driver, and it had never been turned on yet. And during a software update, I got the option of turning on the interior camera. And I said yes, because it's my opinion that should I crash, I won't be doing anything that I would be ashamed of or anything that was inappropriate. Therefore, I'm all in favor of driver-facing dash cams. Full disclaimer.
Nothing to hide.
As am I.
Sorry?
Nothing to hide.
It is one of the things that I will promote when I'm with the client. And it's not so much that I'm promoting that because, that the insurance company is telling me to do that. Having a brother that has been one of Calgary's top traffic cops and getting to know the ins and outs of some of the things that they get to see and for a legal purpose and or, like you said, if you're going down the road and this and an incident happens, and if you've got nothing to hide because you haven't done anything except drive a vehicle, then it's great. But a lot of those cameras too also have the technology for the guys that are doing long haul, that if they start to doze, it's going to send an alert. It's not necessarily, and it's not spying on your privacy. It's not, doing the things that, of course, the conspiracy will throw out there. It is there to help. It's an aid. It can aid, right? And I wish I had that one when I was driving. Because now I just got a car that tells me to stop, and I've set it up that way. But a forward and driver-facing camera, I completely support.
And I mean, some of the new cameras, I don't have these. My customers have told me, though, that they have AI, artificial intelligence, built into them, and will send the safety department an email saying, hey, it looks like the driver might be on their cell phone.
Yep.
So, and then that gives the safety department a clip to review to see if the artificial intelligence was correct. But a number of different things, such as drowsy driving and other inappropriate items.
If I could throw in there, some of that AI technology is actually ranked on a scorecard that the driver actually gets to see. So the number of head bobs you have, or what looks like you're looking at your cell phone or something like that, will actually knock your score down. And I've actually heard the opposite effect, where I've had some drivers come back to safety and go, I just bent over to scratch my head and it come up with a warning and said that I'm losing 2 points off my safety score because it thought I was looking at a phone when I wasn't. I was paying attention. So, but I think the safety officer at that opportunity has the ability to go in, look at it and go, no, that was not a distracted situation or a poor behavior issue, and should be able to pull that back and go, no, he did nothing wrong, and score goes back up. But nobody should be afraid. I agree with both of you. Nobody should be afraid of a forward-facing dash camera unless you've got something to hide.
You mean the driver-facing dash cam?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, unless the driver's got something to hide. That, other than that, there should be no reason.
I mean, I've heard from drivers, and they say, come on, Chris, I'm in this truck for 11 hours or 13 hours in a day. I sometimes do look at my phone. They've been honest. And, obviously I don't endorse it because when I drove, I stopped at least 4 times. Yeah. And at my elderly age now, it would probably be a few more than just 4 times, I'm telling you.
But back in the day, Chris, we had to stop. We didn't have a cell phone. We had to find a pay phone to make a phone call and call dispatch about that load. We didn't have one of these. Yeah. And even when I did, it wasn't until
9 o'clock every morning. Yeah.
Yeah, you call in before this time and call before this time at the end of the day, so we know where you are. This was all before technology. I was never distracted by a cell phone when I drove. Now, you had all the other stuff out the window. Oh, nice car. Oh, geez. Oh, that's a good sight. Oh, there's a crash. Oh, there's a billboard. You had the other distractions you had to manage. Now you're adding this, and this is even worse because now this is in the cab, and then you got those infotainment centers. You've got GPS. You've got mapping devices, all this stuff, which we have to do a better job at managing.
Well, as Andrew says, it's no different than booze. It's a distraction.
Yep.
Or sorry, it's an addiction.
An addiction. Yep, exactly.
So,
But I'd like to say on this end, before we do wrap up, on the fleet end, with the safety people, they get a little bit cranky at times when I go in and I stress on it, and because it's one of those things that it hasn't happened to me, right? So I'd like to just throw out there to the guys, the safety people, to the drivers too. Have a good look at your driver policy and just make sure that you're up to date and that you are, describing exactly what distracting driving is. Not everybody does understand it. Common sense isn't there until it's taught. So we have to be the leaders in this area and go out and do such a thing for them and spell it out. And that's fair. But, when I go and I look through a safety policy and I see, 2 sentences that say you can't use your phone while you're driving, that doesn't describe distracted driving, right? It doesn't give the driver a sense of, and if he's going down the road and something else happens and he has a severe collision and he's, been charged with, a criminal offense of some kind because of it, then, I think it's just something that on our end of safety people, we've got to deliver that message a lot stronger and be a lot more aware of the problem that it is.
Thank you, Mr. Stacey of Aviva Insurance.
Yeah,
well said.
Good stuff.
All right. With that, any last words? Go ahead, Andrew. I was going to say, any last words, Andrew?
I'm good. I think I just babbled that last part off there. So I got my point out that I really want to do. And, I'm going to continue working with the clients as I go out there and make sure that they get it and understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the one thing I'd throw in at the end, it's not that the safety people or the truck drivers don't appreciate or are stupid. Let me say it that way.
No.
And the three of us who all have worked for insurance companies, and Andrew, you still are there, are so knowledgeable. That's not what we're trying to say. The difference is the three of us have got to see some horrendous wrecks working with the different claims departments. And we're certainly, or at least speaking for me, I'm no smarter than anybody else out there. It just, I've got different knowledge that I've seen and been part of. And my God, it's changed my behavior. And if I can pass that on to other people, that knowledge, it would change their behavior, I'm sure, too.
Yeah.
It's just that, as you said, you mentioned common sense, Andrew. It's just, once you've seen it enough times, you go, oh my God, this has got to stop.
Yeah. Well, Andrew had a good phrase there when he said that the customer said it hasn't happened to them yet. Well, the problem is it's no longer if it'll happen. It's when it'll happen. The numbers are so high now, it's going to happen to everybody sooner or later. You don't know when. You can't predict it. You can't say when. You can't even say, oh, that'll never happen to me, because then it will happen sooner. But this is crazy. It's gotten out of hand, and we all have to do a better job at managing it. So, and I would agree with you, Chris. It's changed my behavior in the last 10 years because I see so much of it. As Andrew said, on his motorcycle, he sees so much of it. He's got to be hyper aware of what's going on because of the people around him. I drive a classic car. I'm super hyper when I'm around people because don't ding my car. It's not worth a lot of money, but I can't replace it.
Yep. Andrew, last word?
I'm classic. I can't be replaced, right? So that's
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're all classics.
Beautiful. With that, to our viewers and our listeners, thanks for listening to the Unnamed Podcast as of right now. All right.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us for the interview this week with Stacey of Aviva Insurance. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Give us a like and a comment if you are enjoying the content of the show, and join us again next week for another interview. Thanks so much. The Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast is out.